Kimbra's here, and she's no stranger to Seattle already, huh?
I've been here before, and I really liked it. You know what I did when I was in Seattle?
What's that?
I hired a bike and I drove that waterfront trail that you can do up to a park, and I had a lovely day exploring the city on bicycle.
You didn't go on that duck, did you?
On the duck?
The duck bus that takes people around all the time? Okay, good, because I'd have to slap you.
Seattle has, our drivers have a very odd relationship with bicyclists.
Okay.
Did you encounter any
And pedestrians, too.
And pedestrians.
They own the way.
Why is that?
I don't know why that is, and I have a big problem with it as a guy who drives a car.
It's a passive-aggressive thing. Have you heard that about Seattle, that we're passive-aggressive?
Okay, no, this is new to me.
We do things just to piss other people off, just to say we're better, but we don't openly do it. It's very subtle.
Oh, I see. Right. Ooh,
but you didn't encounter any of that?
No, maybe I'll encounter it tonight in my show. Hopefully not.
What's your impression of Seattle? You've been here twice. You were just here playing with Foster the People
That's
7
right.
weeks ago.
I like this city. I mean, I was lucky to actually get a chance to see it. Often on tour, we're so in and out, I never get to see anything. But it was great, and you know, some great rock bands come from here. It's got that grungy sort of feel to it. I love the little markets. Was walking around there before. Yeah, I'm yet to discover the underground part of Seattle, which is my next mission.
Well, this is it right here. It doesn't get dirty with us two guys at all.
This is a pretty dirty studio.
It is.
This is the underground.
So I'm glad you're having a good time, and people have been very nice to you. Now, you're from New Zealand, right?
I am from New Zealand, yes.
Now, the only thing I know musically from New Zealand as a stupid American is, let's see here, Flight of the Conchords.
Yep.
Was it Split Ends?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep, and Crowded House, of course.
Crowded House, of course. Tim Finn, Neil Finn, those guys. And then you.
Oh, I'm flattered. Really?
That's pretty much it as far as my New Zealand
There's a
music
lot more
knowledge
of New
goes.
Zealand.
Yeah. Now, you come from what I understand, if Wikipedia is right anyway, your father's a doctor, your mother's a nurse.
That's correct, yeah.
Do they hate you?
No! Not at all. I've been very lucky with my upbringing that they were so supportive of me pursuing music. I mean, of course, it was hard. I left at 17 to kind of start work on the album, moved to Australia, and that was hard for them. But they could see that it was, you know, kind of what I really felt I was called to do, and they're supportive of it.
Now, why did you move to Australia? Is that where you decided just a bigger music scene? I lived in Australia for a few years. I played basketball for the Brisbane Bullets when they were around.
Crazy.
So,
well, it was just where my manager was based, and he was from London originally. He'd worked with signed to Jamiroquai and had this really great sort of, you know, body of work that he'd done, and he moved to New Zealand he flew to New Zealand to offer me this opportunity to go to Melbourne, which was where he was now based. And it just, you know, it was kind of that moment where I was like, oh, it's a bit of an adventure, a chance to get out of my comfort zone, because at that point I had been playing a lot of gigs in New Zealand, and I felt like I needed a bit of a change, I guess.
Now, early on when you left, like you said, at 17?
That's right, yeah.
How protective were your parents of you when you, because now obviously you're a woman, grown, you've been around, you know how to tour, you know how to do all this stuff. Do they still call? Do they still check up on you all the time?
We Skype a lot. It's great, isn't it, Skype?
Yeah, it is.
I'm very close with them, and we keep in contact a lot, which is good. But no, I feel pretty blessed, because I know that not everyone gets that, you know, opportunity to have their parents, you know, support them and what they want to do, so I've been lucky.
Well, and usually they nag the hell out of me.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
I will get a text.
Bad.
I'll get a text in the next 20 minutes asking for my mother, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing?
No way. Wow.
It's annoying. Is that an American thing? I mean, I don't know much about New Zealand culture. I mean, is parents, I mean, let's be frank, if either of us had a doctor, mother, or father, or anyone in sort of a quote-unquote academic serious field, they'd be pushing the hell out of you to go into that.
Yeah, no, that's common. I don't know, there's a lot of difficulty in that job as well, you know, being a doctor and a nurse, and I think they could see that I was clearly more creative, and they were happy for me to go down that path.
I'm sure there's some sort of maternal instinct or paternal instinct that comes into this, knowing that, you know what, this is what she's destined to do.
Yeah,
we can't talk her out of it no matter how hard we try.
I was a determined kid, that's for sure. I was like, no, this is, you know, what I'm doing. At that point, I was already doing a lot of gigs around New Zealand, you know, had songs recorded and everything.
Do you remember that moment when you were, whether it was sitting in a room alone playing guitar, writing a song, or the first time you got a really positive reaction. Do you remember that moment where you went, yeah, this is right. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You've got to, wait for that kind of affirmation.
But do you remember that exact moment when it hit you at all?
There's a high school rock band competition we have in New Zealand called the Rock Quest, and a lot of...
Oh yeah, been there.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if you knew that.
I've seen bootleg videos of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's not like American Idol or anything like that. It's more about sort of rock bands. But I entered that as a kid at 14 playing guitar, and it was just a bit of fun. But I got all the way to the finals, which was a big deal for New Zealand, and came second in that competition. I think that was probably the moment, and that I sort of realized, cool. This isn't just something that makes me happy, but people seem to be responding to this. Mm-hmm. Why don't I give it a bit more of a chance?
Who came in first?
Who came in first?
Yeah, where did they go?
What happened? They kick ass.
They're broken up now. They were called Incursor, and they sounded a lot like Incubus, actually, I remember. And even the name Incursor was quite a lot like that as well. But no, they're all in different bands now. So, it was a fun thing to kind of get me into music, and get that encouragement.
Has there been any part of the business that you could actually see yourself going further in, whether it's producing or, owning your own, I don't have labels anymore, do they? Your own, just finding your own talent or whatever it is. Is there that part of it you like, or?
Yeah, well, I co-produced, all of Vows with various producers, and that was a big pivotal moment for me, learning how to actually, execute a song with programming and kind of putting together MIDI string arrangements and being able to communicate that way. It's an area that I'm really wanting to get more into, and sound engineering. I'd like to get more involved with that aspect of making records. Also film, not so much acting, but I just recently had a song on I think it was released yesterday on the soundtrack CD for Tim Burton's new film Frankenweenie, and responding to something visual, like his films are incredible, but that idea of writing music to to a film, or to a scene in a film is really exciting to me, and maybe something I'd like to get into in the future.
Yeah, the reason why I ask it, because creative people are always kind of, not the grass is always greener, but it's always like, looking for the next rush, the next excitement and everything else, because you can't tell by looking at me, but I'm exactly that guy.
Yeah. Sure.
But the difference is, one is much older and not nearly as attractive. Why do you gotta play that card?
Yeah. Why do you gotta go there?
Well, because, at some point you're 22.
That's right, yeah.
I forgot more about the business than she knows already.
Well, that's sort of part of my point. It's like you're starting out with such huge success so young, and I wonder, do you feel like you're going to get burned out before you naturally should get burned out? And is that part of the fear? Is that why you want to get involved in all these other things where it's like, okay, I don't want to get bored? Well, it's just I don't want to get bored.
Yeah, see, Kimbra, we're trying to talk you out of your decision. Basically, is what we're trying to do now.
No, it's all good stuff to think about. You're right. You have to bear that in mind, that people can run themselves down with being, and I'm that kind of person to multitask a lot. But I took so long to make this album. I don't, it was 3.5 years. I started at 17, 22. And so, I had a lot of time to think about that preparation and where I wanted to go, and I think I'm lucky for that, because when people get thrust into it without any time to prepare or think about it or have any body of work to back up a big song, it can be difficult. But I did have a lot of time to grow and mature before it all happened, I guess.
That's probably where a lot of our other artists kind of fail, is that they just jump right in and think it's going to be all crazy.
Well, it might not
and
even
fun.
be their fault as well. It might be that other people kind of guide them into that position, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. How important is it to get a good team around you?
Super important. I've been really lucky to have great management, and all my band that tour with me are guys that I've known since I was 15. They're from New Zealand, and one of them's from Melbourne, and they're just my big brothers, and they keep me grounded. And just people that understand your vision and don't want to try to manipulate it into being, something else.
Did you have to explain your vision to them at all? Or did
course,
they just, you do?
And it
so you had to have a band meeting,
Oh, the band, they kind of got it from the start. They're like prog rock guys. They played in lots of different bands that I was really into. But the point of putting together a live band was I wanted their personality involved. I didn't want to just dictate. I wanted it to feel like it was, they were all adding their own flavor to things.
Now, singing is something that scares the living hell out of me. It's just something that I always admire, the people that could do it, and it scares the hell out of me. Is there a certain type of singing that might scare you, whether it's jazz or something like that, where you'd go, I don't even think I want to attempt that just yet?
These days, I don't think so. I mean, that's kind of what I feed off, is that idea of trying every style vocally, because you learn so much. And jazz was kind of, I guess, where I started in terms of high school, being in a jazz choir. There was a time, that I sung the national anthem back in New Zealand for a rugby game. It was All Blacks versus Ireland, and that was terrifying. That was going out and, singing the anthem for your country in 2 languages. And I think, I wouldn't want to go back and do that again.
Now, those are always disastrous.
I'd rather do freeform singing than that kind of structured, don't muck up any word because this is your country's anthem.
I'd rather tap dance or something. I'd rather stand there nude.
Yeah, exactly.
I would rather you sing.
Well, trust me on this one.
Do you feel you were prepared for the onslaught that happened after the Gautier song? And I don't think anyone expected that song to be as big as it was, and I don't think anyone realized that you were probably going to get even more famous off of that song than Gautier, in a way. I mean, I think you were the standout vocalist in that performance.
Oh, that's very sweet. I mean, I was the same. I heard the song and I definitely resonated with it. I thought it had a really great cathartic moment, and it had this fragility about it that I loved. But I was already a huge fan of Gautier. I'd loved his work in Australia as a kind of experimental pop artist, and then it just started picking up, and I wasn't really aware of it because I was on tour and finishing my album. People were like, it's getting kind of big, but you just go, oh yeah, I didn't really take that stuff seriously, and then you'd go on YouTube and kind of see, whoa, yeah, right, it's getting up there. And it has been an amazing experience to be a part of, and just kind of proved to me that beautiful mystery of music is, no one can really predict or plan out exactly what will be successful. If it strikes a chord with someone, these things just go viral, and it's kind of humbling to know that you can never plan these things in a way, Are you over the Gautier questions at this point? I feel like that's probably the one thing that they start with and they focus on, and you're probably like, enough. It's cool. I mean, I get that people want to ask about it. It's a pretty, big deal, and it's been a big song for everyone, and I understand that for a lot of people it's been a big moment for them and they want to know how it all happened. But it's always funny when they ask me, like, so how did you meet and how did it go in the studio? I'm like, we hung out over coffee and he came over to my house, recorded in my bedroom. It was like this really simple, casual story. There's nothing like, we went into Electric Ladyland and laid down the... Yeah. It's funny, I think that's the way it rolls in Australia and New Zealand. Everything's very bedroom. It's very... We all have studios in our houses. And...
what I'd like to do with her? I'd love to take her over to the music experience over here and have her just start singing in front of people and have people trying to figure out what the hell's going on. That'd be fun. Did you go over to that yet? Because we have this big, what is it? It's
the
more of a... EMP, yeah.
It's, music experience. It's a museum of sorts for music lovers.
But it's a hands-on type of thing. They've got all types of stuff from Nirvana and, Jimi Hendrix and all the locals from Seattle. But there's hands-on experience things where you could actually sing in front of people, and it'd just be fun to, have you walk in there and just, blow everybody away. Oh, I've never done it before. Now as far as writing lyrically, do you ever go to ever written anything where you went, no, I'm not ready to sing about this yet, or I don't know if my audience is prepared for this side of me yet?
Yeah, I think more so with the early days of writing the record, because you're still kind of attaining your confidence and sense of self, and so there would have been a few moments where lyrically I would have gone, I don't know. But for the most part, I think I kind of wore my heart on my sleeve with a lot of that record. I mean, I have a song called I Want to Settle Down. I talk about raising children, and I was 16 when I said that, so...
that's a little weird.
That's one that I could have left off, but I didn't, but for the reason that I think it is an inclination for women that a lot of us feel, and, I like the idea of music being a forum to talk about these things and to put it out there, and even if it's provoking or some people disagree or I think as long as it challenges people in some way and makes them think, that's much more exciting to me than just writing, completely safe music that just kind of doesn't make anyone second guess or want to listen again,
Yeah, we kind of have this theory, Jason and I do a little bit, and it's kind of like, a little mantra, make mistakes, because you got to learn from it, and you don't stand out if you don't try something.
That's true.
So what kind of mistakes have you made that really stand out where you go, whoa, boy, I'm going to have to answer for that one?
Oh, man. Mistakes. Like on stage or...
Wherever, whether it's just one of those...
I do a lot of looping, and that's kind of a big part of the set, and a lot of, stripped back performances. I rely completely on iPad applications and looping pedals, but nothing is kind of synced up. It's all very relying completely on, your finger being on the one. And a lot of times that has gone very wrong for me. I remember on my first tour around Europe, I'd set up a loop and it would just kind of completely fail. But, like you said, that's kind of when you learn the most, and it would almost trigger me to be like, okay, I'm going to try something completely spontaneous, and maybe you'll just stop the loop and maybe play a drum beat or just sing something a cappella. And I think it's good to keep a level of discomfort sometimes so you don't fall into the trap of a monotonous set that is always the same.
You definitely learn how to ad-lib, that's for sure.
That's correct,
as far as that goes.
Is it one of those things that does the audience even notice? I feel like when we make radio errors to us, it's huge, and the people don't know.
Yeah, that's very true. I think, I'm always my own worst critic. I'll walk off stage, oh man, and everyone will be like, I didn't even hear a thing. So,
Are you like that and just prepping for a show? I mean, are we talking you're spending hours doing sound checks to make sure everything is exactly perfect, or is it more gonna go out there, some stuff's gonna go right, some stuff's gonna go probably a little wrong, but we just move on?
I think I'm coming to that place more nowadays, that acceptance of, being like, I'm just gonna go out there and do my very best. And but you do get into those seasons where making the record, for example, is very hard for me to let go. I just went over and over listening to things like literally the EQing of the hi-hats on a song, and like I said, people for the most part aren't sitting there listening to that stuff, they're listening to the words, and I'm saying, but I became so wrapped up in it that I just got on the verge of obsessive, and you have to say it's finished, and it's about connecting and not, overworking something. So that's been a big lesson.
And you're probably even better now for that. You're probably better on stage, you're probably better, writing and performing and everything else. You just, that you just don't care as much anymore.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of a form of like surrender in a way,
Yeah, it's cool.
Were you easy to work with?
What was that?
Were you easy to work with?
Yeah.
That's true.
I always get that because, I'm also sort of a perfectionist in some levels, and I realize at some point I'm probably horrible to work for.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, you're easy to work with. There are people who I'm not.
I have to ask my band. I think, we're all good friends, and I think everyone understands that it's all for the purpose of making it the best it can be. Do you know what I mean? It's not personal, or if someone, it's just about making it special.
But you have final say. I mean, that's the thing, and that's where it's tough to be a bandmate or whatever it is, because sometimes you don't really see things a certain way, and you have your vision so focused in that you're afraid to try something different.
That's true. Yeah. No, I think it's important that someone, you see it all the time in bands, that someone eventually is the leader and can kind of make executive decisions.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's on you anyway. Who cares?
It's your name attached.
You seem like you're prepared for it and ready to go, and it's been really cool meeting you.
You too.
We hope you have a great time in Seattle. Obviously, you come back every 3 weeks. So next time, write the duck and think of us.
Okay. I will. I'll think about that.
So congratulations on all your success. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers.